Hey, everybody, welcome back. It is the Razzball Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I am Beaton, joined by the Fantasy Master Lothario, the Spectacled Wonder. Great. What's going over there,
Hey, what's going on, man? Hey, how's it going there, Beaton? Hey, I know people in the listening audience and you as well, I'm sure, are interested in my journey to making pickles. It's my pickling. I understand lots of people are interested in this. So I'm trying to make hot sauce. I'm trying to ferment hot peppers, right? Habaneros. So I put them in a jar in my sink that's actually behind me. I have a kitchen behind me. People can't see it. Anyway, I have so I put habaneros in a jar, and I read just before we're recording this. I was looking. I probably should have done this before I started fermenting hot peppers, but I just was looking online to see if there's anything I need to do, or what do I do with them, as they sit in my sink and ferment. And it says, I read somewhere, it says that there's a carbon dioxide builds up, and they potentially could explode. So while we're recording this, I could have a bomb of hot peppers go off behind me. I don't know for sure, but I'm just warning you that at some point I potentially could have a hot pepper bomb explode behind me.
That sounds like that would be dangerous, Gray. I mean, how close is it to you? Do we need to worry about you?
I don't know. I'd say I'm not good with distance. I want to say it's like 15 feet, maybe. It's
okay. Do you need to text me your address so that I can call 911 for you? What's the situation? Is this like imminent? Like you should have done this before we stepped on the podcast, or?
I had them actually. I had them in the house, in the main house. My office is a separate building. Anyway, it's not really that interesting, but neither is the pickling, really. But anyway, I had the hot peppers fermenting in the main house, and I explained the potential for an explosion. And Cougs was like, "Why don't you bring them into your office?
Go blow up your own stuff.
Go blow up your own area." I have habaneros behind me that could explode at any moment.
Let's move on to a different kind of hot pepper. Somebody that's been good for our game, Gray. Because I tried to fake like I was interested, but I really don't care unless we get to see this explosion happen somehow, some way. But yes, let's move on to Jackson Chourio, who's gone 20-20. He has 21 home runs, 20 stolen bases, 75-77, 276. 330, 478. He's just under a 20% K rate and just over a 7% walk rate. 43rd on the overall season player rater and 12th on the hitter player rater over the last 30 days. Had a couple tough months to start the season, but since June, he's had 16 home runs, 13 stolen bases, a 16.4% K, 7.8% walk. He's hit 309. A 152 WRC. Like he's been really good since that opening stretch. What are your thoughts on Jackson Chourio as we start looking? Obviously, he's owned and he's going to help whoever has him for the rest of the season. But as we look forward, what are your thoughts on him? Is he somebody you're going to be targeting heavily next year, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah. So like we were discussing prior to the recording starting, we're going to do in 2 weeks, we're going to do a top 25 for 25. Sounds a little Casey Kasem-ish. A 25 for 25. Yeah, we're going to be doing that in 2 weeks. We'll be doing that podcast where we go over our top 25 for 2025. And, I was actually, I know you don't read my roundups. I'm assuming you don't, at least, but maybe you do. I don't know, but I'm assuming you don't. And funnily enough, that I actually in today's roundup this morning, I mentioned Jackson Chourio and like where people think he's going to be going in 25. And a few people said that they figured Chourio was going to be a top 15 guy for next year. And, the more I think about it, and the way I am with guys with upside in general, at least I admit that I am crazy for upside, Yeah, I mean, top 25, easy, top 15 next year. It seems like, I don't know. I mean, I find it hard to imagine he isn't going to be in the top 25, at least, and probably top 15. I kind of agree with what people were saying in the comments today. That's Monday, the 16th. I went to look at the player rater because some people were like, oh, he's already top 25 for this year. Why wouldn't he be for next year? So I went to look at the player rater, and actually it looks like he's at 43 overall. So I don't know what people are talking about there. Maybe I misread what they said. But yeah, he's at 43 overall right now. And as I just happened to, I did a find, a control F for the name Jackson on the player rater, and I saw that Jackson Merrill is actually at 26 overall. So he is a good $6 more in $3 more in value from Chourio. So I know this wasn't really the question, but now that I'm seeing that, it's like, is Jackson Merrill higher for 25 than Jackson Chourio by just using the name, the number 25? And saying top 25, it becomes very confusing. So I'm gonna start saying 2025. Is it Jackson Merrill for 2025 or Jackson Chourio? That might actually be the question, because like Jackson Merrill has a real legitimate a case for a top 25 year, but I don't know if he's necessarily going to be in that top 25. Not just our hours that we do in 2 weeks. I mean, for ADP, once people start drafting, I don't see Jackson Merrill making that jump to the top 25 overall. Jackson Chourio, I do though. I think he's going to be top 25 overall in 2025. And like I said, top 15, probably. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to really argue with a guy who's like, 20 years old and he goes 2020. So we have a 20-year-old who goes 2020, top 25 in 25. Man, is this confusing. But no, seriously though. And also Jackson Chourio is 20 years old when 2020, and his K rate is 20%. A lot of the same numbers. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's honestly, it's hard for me to imagine Jackson Chourio not taking a step forward, and even, going and then saying, taking a step forward and then going back for a second and talking about like when I was writing up his rookie outlook post last year, I mentioned how he looks like a future Ronald Acuna Jr. With better knees, obviously. So I think like he is like this year, the speed was pretty lacking. But that the steals were lacking. His speed is fine. So I think there's even a chance that he becomes more aggressive on the base paths as he gets a little bit older, a little bit smarter about when to run, a little bit smarter about reading pitcher signs. And if he's able to run more, or at least if he wants to run more, I honestly could see projections for him for 2025 being in like the 30 to 45 range. And that might be conservative on the steals. So a 30, 45, 280 hitter at 21 years old. Yeah, man, giddy up. I'm all about Jackson Chourio.
Yeah, I like Chourio as well. And I would say for the Merrill, in regards to the play rater, he does have an extra 10 games. And as I mentioned, Chourio really struggled for like 2 months. And they're still pretty close on the play rater. That being said, I think they're both really good. I think Chourio has more speed. I mean, that's pretty. You can just tell he's top 15 in sprint speed. I think where he hits in the lineup is maybe a little detrimental to the way that they're going to use him in regards to his speed. But if they just get more comfortable with him stealing and not getting caught, I think that could adjust too. He had 7 caught stealing this year. It's not great on 20 stolen bases. So that's probably I would guess part of the issue. But again, he's hitting second, and it may just be that they don't want to have him run into outs before the middle of the lineup, and that's fine. It is what it is.
Also, if I can push back about the lineup placement for Chourio, not you could be right, but I'll just say like the Brewers, they had Yelich in the middle of that lineup running as much as he wanted to, at least as much as it seemed like he wanted to for a while. So I don't really think that where if he's hitting third, I don't think it's going to necessarily, maybe it stops him from stealing 40 bags, like I was saying he could potentially do, but 30, I mean, if he goes 30-30 his second year with great counting stats and a solid average, I'll take it. It's like how bad could it be? Which is something you don't want to say and then jinx him into him having a terrible sophomore year. But yeah, I mean, how bad could it be?
Yeah, a lot of their bad ball numbers.
Honestly, let's go back to let's put a clip of Gray in March saying, how bad could Acuna's year be? What? 35, 50? I mean, how bad? Really? But yeah, hopefully Chourio stays healthy and keeps moving forward. But I like it's like if you just look at his numbers, it's hard to imagine, like, without something super fluky happening, it's hard to imagine really where the downside is, because it's not like he's like with Ellie De La Cruz. I was really concerned about the strikeout rate, but with Chourio, I mean, that's not, he's 20 years old and he's got a barely under 20% strikeout rate. That's insane, man. That's like, I mean, that is so good. I don't want to put him like on, a path of like, obviously serious jinxing here, but it's like Juan Soto, like there's so few guys that come up at 20 years old and have this good a contact and this good a plate discipline. Like he's on another world, right? Like Jackson Chourio he looks like the real deal. I don't know what else to say.
No, absolutely. I mean, if you could get both the Jacksons at a turn, that probably wouldn't be the worst possible thing you could do. 20 and 21-year-olds that are performing at this level, it's usually a good time to buy in as early as you can when they're performing like that.
Right. Well, and also, like I say with Jackson Merrill, like he is, also like the contact is so good. The contact is really good. The age, I mean, he's only 21. Again, the makings of a star, if not already a star. Only thing I'll say with Jackson Merrill is I don't see the upside for the speed quite like I see with Chourio. Like Chourio, I think, like I said earlier, I think Chourio has 45 steals in him if, he wants to run and the opportunities are there and he learns how to steal bases better. I think that's a real possibility for him. Jackson Merrill, I don't really see more than 20 steals from him. He's got speaking of Yelich earlier, he's got kind of like Yelich speed. I mean, Jackson Merrill can steal bases, but he's not going to steal anywhere close to 40 steals. I mean, I honestly, I'd probably put his steals, if we were doing projections for 2025, I'd probably put Jackson Merrill at 27, 20, 285, which, honestly, that's not, those aren't bad numbers at all, obviously, but still, it's not like potential 30 homers, 45 steals and a 285 average. Like it's not that.
Yeah. And again, it's not he doesn't hit in the lineup in a place where they need him to run a lot either. Like a lot of the high stolen base guys do hit lead off. Like it's part of why Acuna can steal as many bases as he does, because he hits lead off this spot. If he hits a single instead of a home run, he can take second, I feel like, whenever he wants to most of the time. So we'll see how that all works out. But yeah, I think in regards to the upside, Chourio, I think, has more. I would say, Merrill may have a little bit more power at this point, but given that Chourio plays in such a better park, I kind of call that, even as well. So, yeah, why wouldn't it be Chourio? I mean, is there anybody else that really, from a rookie or breakout standpoint, that you would take over Chourio? Like Merrill, James Wood, obviously Lawrence Butler has had a fantastic year as well. Or is this Chourio like the top, prospect breakout guy from this year?
Yeah, I would say probably Chourio over all those guys. The closest for me, Merrill is going to be the closest for 2025, I think, in drafts. But the closest guy for upside, he won't be as drafted as closely to Chourio as Merrill, I don't think. But probably the closest guy for upside is James Wood. I think he's potential, again, super young, 21 years old. He's going to be, actually, he turns 22 when this podcast comes out. Hey, happy birthday, James Wood. Yeah, I think he's going to be another guy who's going to be a star. Him and Dylan Cruz are going to be stars. But, James Wood, I think, is probably the closest for upside. I don't see, his power is roughly, I think, around Chourio's power. So probably even more. Like James Wood could grow into a 40 homer hitter, I think. Probably for next year, you're looking at projections in the 27 to 32 homer range. That even might be aggressive, but probably in that range, maybe 25 to 30 homers projection wise, but less steals. This is for projections, not necessarily what he's capable of. I think James Wood is probably capable of a 30-30 season next year. At 22 years old, that's like crazy young to do a 30-30 season. So yeah, I mean, another guy who's going to be a star. I think his strikeouts are a little bit higher than the other guys we were talking about, the two Jacksons. I think James Wood is probably, a little bit prone to maybe a 260 average projection wise next year versus, the 280, 285 we were talking about. So still though, I mean, 30-30, 260 is not bad. So yeah, I like James Wood a lot. I think Dylan Cruz is also, he looks like another guy, like I said, like another guy who's going to be a star. Next year, he's going to be after these guys though, just because of the the sheer lack of how much we've seen them. It's like we just haven't seen these guys as much. I think if it's between Jackson Chourio and Jackson Merrill and James Wood, I think it's probably that's probably the ranking. It's Chourio, Merrill, Wood, but Wood is definitely going to be on a lot of radars. I think Butler's after, Wyatt Langford will be after. Wyatt Langford and Butler will probably be after another rookie who's actually a pitcher, which is Paul Skeens. I think he's going to be before. He'll be before Langford or Butler. He'll probably be before James Wood. He might be before Jackson Merrill in some leagues. I don't know.
He might be before Chourio in some leagues.
Yeah, in some leagues for sure. He won't be on my rankings, but yeah, in some leagues he will be before. Yeah, there's a bunch of. I mean, Tyler Fitzgerald, PCA, Parker Meadows, Connor Norby. A lot of good names for next year. None of those guys really rate as highly as the other guys we were talking about, the Jacksons. Also, Jackson Holiday, who's now struggling again. But he, Jackson Holiday's bigger issue is even if things are going perfectly for Jackson Holiday, he's not going to be as exciting for fantasy as I think some of these other guys. Like, he could be a top 25 guy, but he's a lot more, hit tool forward and not as high, probably not as high in speed and power. But I mean, speed and power should be good. He's also crazy young, but he's struggling again. So I can't imagine he's going to be drafted anywhere near these other guys we're talking about. Maybe he'll be near like the Connor Norbys or the Wyatt Langfords of the world if Jackson Holiday has a good spring training and looks like he's going to have the starting job and maybe hitting leadoff to start the year. Like, Jackson Holiday could move up draft boards, but he's not going to be near Jackson Chourio or Jackson Merrill or even James Wood.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think PCA is going to be on a lot of my teams because I think he's sneaky, can provide a lot of value, especially if they let him run, because he's got a ton of speed. He's got Chourio level speed, but yeah, from a power standpoint, he's not on the level of a Chourio or a Merrill. I'm going to throw one that's not a breakout out.
I'm sorry, but PCA is actually he looks really good. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if I write a sleeper post for PCA. He looks like shockingly good. Like 15, 35, 250 maybe for that's for projections next year. So 15 homers, 15 homers, 30, 35 steals, 250. Yeah, I mean, not bad.
Yeah, I think there's even room to go up in the average. He's hit 272 in the second half, getting full-time playing time. Whereas before, he'd get in games like late as a defensive sub, or like he'd be platooned. Like, him playing, like he's getting the at-bats and figuring things out.
Right.
I'm going to own a lot of PCA.
Yeah, no, completely. Yeah, no, I've become a fan this in the second half. He looks really good, and it's like getting steals is nice from everyone, but when you get a guy like PCA who could like shock with like he has 50 steal speed, like he could potentially go 15, 50, 260 and have a top 15 overall year. Like, he's capable of that and hitting at the top of the lineup potentially. Like, if things start going right, there's room there for him to really be, really excel. And he's still crazy young. Like, he didn't really hit the ground running in 2023 necessarily, but that was like such a small sample size. And then, because I think the first half of the year he struggled a little bit. Like, people have sort of moved on mentally from PCA, but I think Crow Armstrong could be like a top 30 guy next year, easy, if not better. I'm all about him.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like low key second half value that people may just have checked out on, like you said, because he did kind of fail in his first couple looks, and that. I mean, it happens. Guy who isn't a breakout, Gray, is maybe the opposite of a breakout. Corbin Carroll. Let's put him in the Chourio Merrill conversation. Would you rather have Chourio Merrill or Corbin Carroll?
Right. So Corbin Carroll, he's a guy who's actually similar to Pacific Designs, Pacific Crow Armstrong. He's actually similar to Pete Crow Armstrong because like he was he was really struggling in the first half, Corbin Carroll, but he's turned it on the second half. So if people have checked out early or they moved on to like fantasy football and they're not really paying attention anymore, they might be surprised to find out like Corbin Carroll is a top 30 overall guy on the player rater. He didn't really have that bad a year when push came to shove and the whole year came together. Like it was an absolute struggle early on, but like his, like people were worried about the shoulder. Shoulder doesn't seem to be an issue. People were worried about his steals. But it looks like he's still fast. The steals have come down, but steals are, they're a funky stat where it's like it's kind of about how much a guy wants to run versus how much how well he can run. Like Corbin Carroll is very fast still. There's no reason why he can't steal 50 plus bags again like he did last year. He just didn't this year. So it's hard for me to be, I actually think, sadly, I think I'm going to be in on Corbin Carroll again next year because I think he's going to be at a place in drafts where he's going to be a steal. Pun noted, but sort of, it couldn't have been avoided. But anyway, I think he's probably going to be after Chourio and before Merrill for me. And if he's in the top 20, I'm still interested. If he's like going between like 15 and 20 overall, Corbin Carroll, that is, yeah. I mean, so I'm seeing like, Jackson Chourio is like 12 to 15, 12 to 16, somewhere in that range. Corbin Carroll's 15 to 20, somewhere in that range. I'm in absolutely on Corbin Carroll. And then Jackson Merrill, I think is probably going to be around like 40 to 60, I think, for Jackson Merrill. I think he's going to be a good round or two after those guys. Not that there's anything wrong with them. It's just how I think things are going to play out.
Yeah, I don't know if I think he falls all the way to 40, but I agree he's not necessarily in the top. He's not going to necessarily go in the first round like I think the other two potentially still can. Yeah, I mean, Corbin Carroll's put it together here in the second half, found the power randomly, and then is still stealing bases. He's shown, the speed is back. I mean, he's just as fast as he was now. So everything's fine really on Corbin Carroll as far as we can tell. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what his draft cost looks like next year. If some people just remember the first half and, decide not to draft him, where's he going to fall to? I think I looked at the hitters because if we just remove all pitching, because you and I aren't going to draft pitching in the first 20 picks, like Chourio's at 32 right now, just off quick count. Like there's 13 guys I can absolutely move him above without even thinking about it. Like the, Ketel Martes, the Eugenio Suarez's, like the guys who we're not going to draft that high. And that gets him to 19 without even giving him any upside or, fixing the first 2 months he was terrible. So yeah, I'm with you, Gray. He's going to be really good next year, and he's going to go early in drafts. But let's move on. We've spent a lot of time discussing Chourio. Let's talk about a call-up from the Mets, which is a Luisangela Acuna. AAA this year, he has 7 home runs, 40 stolen bases, hit 258, 299, 355, 16.4% K, 5.5% walk. We're getting down to crunch time. If they're not producing, they're absolutely not going on a roster. Is he going to get enough playing time to warrant putting on a roster?
Yeah. I mean, I think in most leagues, if you're struggling to find steals, it looks like, we're recording this on Monday. By Tuesday, maybe Lindor is back in the lineup and looks, fine. And then Acuna's back on the bench. So this all becomes moot. But if Acuna's playing and Lindor is hurt, then I don't mind grabbing Acuna in any league if you need steals for, the potential for steals is there. Anything else is like, but that's also, that means there's other guys that have been, picked up off of waivers that are probably like, just throwing out a random name, say Victor Robles is available in your league. I would want Robles for steals over Acuna, so it depends on who's available in your league. But if you really need steals and, Acuna's all that's there and he's playing, I don't mind the flyer. I just, I think he's probably better in a daily league where if he's, if Lindor suddenly comes back and Acuna is pushed to the bench, if you're in a daily league, at least you can get Acuna out of your lineup. I don't know if I'd put Acuna in my lineup in a weekly league unless it was like an NL only league.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much how I feel. I mean, there's really not a reason
sorry, not to interrupt, but like Acuna's playing time is contingent on Lindor. If Lindor is healthy, he's in the lineup immediately. Like there's no maybe they'll platoon. Like Acuna is out of the lineup indefinitely if Lindor is healthy. So you have to take that into consideration if you're going to be starting Acuna.
Yeah, so we'll wait and see what happens with Lindor. I mean, he went for an MRI on Saturday and then played on Sunday. So I'm assuming it's nothing too bad, but we'll wait and see. Again, even if Lindor is out, that doesn't necessarily mean he's playing every day either.
Right. Yeah, but Lindor played on Sunday, and then after his first at bat, he got removed because his back flared up again. So Lindor is definitely hurting, but still the point remains that if it's a weekly league, do not play Acuna unless it's an NL only league. And then, obviously you just play whoever.
Yeah. All right, let's move over to St. Louis where they made a couple of call-ups. Thomas Saggese and Luken Baker. Saggese at AAA this year had 125 games, 20 home runs, 9 stolen bases, 253, 313, 438, 23% K rate, 5.9% walk rate. And then Luken Baker at AAA had 108 games, 32 home runs, 231, 345, 535, 24.3% K rate, 14.8% walk rate. Are you interested in either of these St. Louis call-ups? Baker, obviously, power only. Saggese maybe a little bit of both, but what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I don't know. I think Saggese is a little bit more interesting, but he's also daily league. If it's a shallower league, it's a daily league pickup when he's actually playing. And in a weekly league, it's got to be an NL only league to get really excited about him because it looks like he's on, the bad side of a platoon. If he's even, so if he's even playing, it's going to take, a lefty pitcher for him to even get into the lineup. So yeah, which is also just, with this time of year, it's like if they're just giving Saggese a reward for having a solid AAA season, so they're just bringing him up and letting him get a few at bats. But he doesn't look like he's in the picture for every day at bats for the final 2 weeks for the card. So yeah, there's not much there. And Luken Baker is the exact same situation where, he's behind Goldschmidt. I think the Cardinals should move on from Goldschmidt, but they're not going to just bench Goldschmidt for the final 2 weeks for no reason. It's like it could be his final 2 weeks with the club, so they're not going to just bench him. So Luken Baker's fine for if he's in the lineup, but he's probably not going to be in the lineup except for against a lefty as a DH maybe here and there. So outside of NL only, not really that interested.
Yeah, it's not really a situation for this year. Goldschmidt is going to be a free agent next year, so maybe there's an opportunity for somebody, including Luken Baker, to take that for next year. But for this year, I don't think there's much there. Isaac Collins was called up by the Brewers, 113 games in AAA. He had 14 home runs, 24 stolen bases, hit 273, 386, 475, 19% K rate, 14% walk rate. Is Isaac Collins any more interesting to you?
No, not at all. But you know what is interesting? I just remembered in March of this year, my big bet for the World Series was the Brewers winning the World Series. So Daddy could come into some money if the Brewers are winning. Know what I'm saying? Know what I'm saying? Know what I'm saying?
It could happen, Gray. It definitely happen.
Yeah. So I just want to say on the record, if my habanero peppers explode and kill me, you can have my Brewers World Series winning ticket.
I appreciate that. I will have to fly to LA, make a reason to be there. Come to your office.
And rummage through my stuff. Said, tell Cougs you're here. You were told that you could have something of mine, and then just rummage. Anyway, Isaac Collins. Yeah, nothing there. Let's move on.
Guardians recalled Angel Martinez, AAA this year. He has 7 home runs, 5 stolen bases, 274, 356, 456, 33 games at the major league level. He has 3 home runs, 3 stolen bases, and hit 241. Anything here?
No, there's not.
Okay, let's move over to some of the players returning from injuries, starting with the Dodgers. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, 2.77 ERA, 105 WHIP in 78 innings this year, 6-2, 29% K rate, 5.4% walk rate. Obviously, is owned everywhere. But where do you think he falls next year among starting pitchers? Is he a top 20 guy? Is he top 10? Obviously, he's good when he's in there, but how much do you think this injury and maybe workload concerns factor into, his rating for next year?
Yeah, I mean, I was, I was kind of bummed that we didn't. I mean, I don't know what the Yamamoto's problems like with his his tricep or anything, how serious it is for going forward into the future. I'll have to go get a medical degree this off season and try and figure that out. But with all that said, I really like Yamamoto. His numbers, I mean, for a rookie first year, I mean, obviously, he played over in Japan, but first year in majors, I mean, his numbers look incredibly good. It's really excellent. So I don't know if you figure if his numbers, conservatively get you 100 and I don't know, 100 innings next year, 110 innings, say. If they get you 110 innings with those numbers that he put up, the 10.6 K per 9, barely under a 2 walk per 9, a 2.77 ERA as of the recording of this, at least. If an under 3 ERA in 110 innings next year, say, conservatively, maybe that is roughly top 15 to maybe top 17 to 20 starter. I don't know, think well, no, he ended up not being he ended up not working out. I was gonna say what's his face, Glasnow. Well, Glasnow actually, he pitched 130 innings this year. And he went a little bit higher than that, I think, in drafts. But if Yamamoto's healthy, I don't know, top 17, maybe top 17 starter. I like him still. I tend to not draft, pitching high, but Yamamoto will probably be in that range where I could potentially get him, and I would happily take him. If especially in a shallow league, if you're in a shallow league and you get 110, if you get 100 innings or 110 innings, whatever it is from Yamamoto of like ace numbers, and then you replace that with guys with streamers off of waivers, you could like patchwork together 175 innings of good stats. Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. I don't know. I like Yamamoto still. I would say top 20, just barely under top 20. Actually, maybe like a Blake Snell-ish coming into this year, maybe. I think he was going around the 17th pitcher off the board, maybe. Maybe he was a little bit higher because he's coming off his Cy Young year. But yeah, I like Yamamoto. Probably top 17-ish.
Yeah, I think Snell was going a little later just because he was in free agency until the very, very last second. And that definitely hurt his draft stock and him just being Blake Snell. But yeah, I think that's probably fair. If we're just looking at pitchers from this year, like somewhere between like what Paul Skeens did in 120 innings and what Jack Flaherty's done in 150 innings, I mean, that feels pretty fair in regards to what we've seen from Yamamoto. If he can stay healthy, it's just, will he stay healthy? But you could say the same thing about any starting pitcher.
Yeah, I mean, with Yamamoto, I would think like if you're expect 110 innings and be thankful if you get 170 innings. I can't imagine 170 innings will even be on the high side of what he could do after only doing 85-ish innings this year, maybe 100 if the playoffs. If he pitches in the playoffs, maybe 100 innings this year total. So they're not going to jump him to 175 next year. So, you draft him for 110, maybe 120 overall, and be thankful if you get 150-ish.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's necessarily that he can't throw innings. I mean, it was an injury. It happens. Maybe it repeats. Maybe there's something here where, we've definitely seen Asian pitchers come over and struggle with injuries, but I mean, it's a guy who's thrown like 190, 170 innings before.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's not like there's an innings limitation on him.
That's true. I mean, you could potentially hit the jackpot and like you hit the lottery and you get Yamamoto for, conservatively you expect 120 innings and you get 175. I mean, if you get 175 innings to Yamamoto next year, he's going to be a top 5 starter easily.
Yeah. All right, let me throw some names at you. Would you take Yamamoto or Shota?
Well, in this draft where we're only drafting Asians,
number 7 pitcher on the player radar.
No, I know. I'm just playing. I would take Shota just because we've actually seen the innings this year, so it feels a little bit safer. I think Shota, you're looking at a top 12-ish, 12 to 15, probably maybe 10 even, top 10 to 15 overall starter next year. And like I said, Yamamoto, I see more as like 17. So Shota is over Yamamoto for me.
All right, I would go the other way there, but let's move on and see if that changes anywhere else down the line. Hunter Green, would you take Hunter Green or Yoshi?
I think I'm taking Yoshi. I still don't, Hunter Green. I don't know. I mean, he still hasn't done the full season, right? I mean, he looked great when he was out there for the time he was. But yeah, I don't think I can go Hunter Green over him. I don't, also the elbow, the fact that he's out with an elbow issue. I know, the Reds have said he could, he's fine, but I don't know, man. I even though Yamamoto obviously had the tricep thing, but I mean, Yamamoto's already back and throwing and Hunter Green isn't. So yeah, I'm not going Hunter Green there now.
All right, fair enough. How about Corbin Burns?
No, I'm way out on Corbin Burns next year. No, Corbin Burns to me looks like, I mean, everything in his peripherals looks terrible. I think Corbin Burns is going to be one of those like obvious fade guys next year. I'm not in on Corbin Burns.
Yeah, the strikeout rate drop has been, I mean, it's been pretty bad. I don't know that you can really think of him as the Corbin Burns we've seen. I know the numbers are good this year, but yeah. And then Paul Skeens.
Oh, I don't think it's even going to be a question of whether or not I want Skeens or not. I think people are going to draft Skeens. Like we mentioned when we were talking about Chourio and Merrill, I think Skeens is going to be going in the top 25. So it won't even top 25 overall, that is, not top 25 starters. I think Skeens is going to be a top 5 starter off the board for people. So it won't even matter whether or not I want Skeens or not. He'll be gone way before I'm drafting a starter. But yeah, Paul, but anyway, Paul Skeens over Yamamoto. Yes.
Yeah, I think Skeens is probably number 2 or 3 pitcher off the board next year. So
yeah, it's not even going to be a question. It's basically like Skubal, Wheeler, Skeens, Skubal, Skeens, Wheeler. It's something like something like that, probably.
Yeah, maybe like if you really want to throw like Cole Reagan's in there. I could see that, but yeah,
I don't think so. But yeah,
maybe. I mean, Reagan's could get there if he had different win luck. If he had Shota's win luck this year, he'd be there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. I've come around on Cole Reagan's. I feel like he is able to make his walk rate work, but it's still I mean, I don't need the K's that bad. Cole Reagan's for me is after Shota even. Cole Reagan's is probably where he was coming into this year is probably where he is going into next year. I don't think he's moved at all because he's like strikeouts first. So 3.32 ERA from Cole Reagan's with a 1.15 whip. It's fine, but in most leagues, don't you have ERA and whip as categories? Like those aren't elite. That's not an elite whip and it's not an elite ERA. Obviously both of those categories are very fickle and they're fluky and they can move depending on BABIP, but still that's what he's been his entire career. So to expect Cole Reagan's just to come in and throw a 2.75 ERA with an under 1 whip, it's like you're just, it's just like you're fantasizing about something that is just we have not seen it. I mean, maybe it could happen, but we haven't seen it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think of it kind of in like the Freddie Peralta style breakout where, Freddie was who he was. He was, good pitcher, lots of strikeouts, bad whip, and then he got together, had a really elite season, and then maybe he kind of fell back into what he was. But I agree, the whip's never going to be elite, but the strikeouts could be so good. I think he could be up there for me, but I love strikeouts. That's what I do. Let's move over to a couple of guys who used to get talk about in this conversation that we're having that are no longer there, but Max Scherzer, Jacob DeGrom both returned. Max has been fine this year. I mean, 3.95 ERA, 1.15 whip in 43 innings, 22.5% K rate, 5.5% walk. Velocity's down, tick and a half. He held off the drop in the K rate for a really long time. Is it finally gone? Is he just a regular guy now?
Yeah. Is he a free agent? Is he going to retire? I mean, I don't know. What's Max Scherzer's contract situation? Because I mean, I feel like he should. I guess he's going to have
a free agent after this year.
Oh, and then I don't know. Maybe he'll have like he wants to have one last season where everyone knows he's going to retire. I don't know. He's done. I love Max Scherzer. He was like one of the best pitchers of all time. He's one of the greatest that we've seen in the last 15 years, easy. But yeah, I mean he's done as far as fantasy goes. It's he's fine for like if you need a stream. Maybe, and if he's able to throw 5 innings, but even that, like,
Yeah, I mean, I I'd be fine throwing him as a streaming option. He's still been fine when he's out there, but he's not going deep in the game. So if you're chasing anything other than like ratios, I don't know that he's really your guy. And even then, I don't know that the ratios are all that clean unless it's a good matchup. Like he gets Seattle this week, who's been really good recently offensively, and then he gets at least scheduled at the Angels or at Oakland. Either of those, I think I'd be fine with, especially at Angels. At Oakland's actually been a tougher matchup, but it's fine. He's a streaming out.
Yeah, if if anything, I would say he should be like he should take a page out of Roger Clemens's like when Roger Clemens like in his final year or final years when he was like, oh, I'll come back at the All-Star break and I'll someone can sign me for half a season like that. If anything, Scherzer should do that and just come back in July of next year and see if he can help a team get to the playoffs. But otherwise, I think he's kind of done.
Yeah, I mean, he can always come back, get a full year pay from the Yankees because they'll need somebody as a starter at some point. They always do. So, yeah, I mean, that would be interesting. Or you can always go to the Dodgers when 8 of their starters go down. It'll be fun. Jake DeGrom also returned. Does he finish the rest of the season? His velocity's down a little bit, 99 to 97.8. Still really high, so not really the worst of things. His first start was 3 2/3, 4 Ks, no walks, 4 hits. I mean, where are you at on Jacob DeGrom?
It's so ridiculous that we're even like, I mean, he hasn't thrown over 100 innings if you combine his last 3 years. It's like, what are we doing here, man? It's DeGrom honestly probably should have went the route of Mason Miller and been like a lights out, like do like John Schmaltz and be like a lights out closer that's what he probably should have done starting like 5 years ago, because I mean, he can't stay on the field. Like, I mean, he looks great for the, 5 innings you get a year from him. But I don't know. I think if anything, he'll probably be, I would guess. I mean, if people are, if he looks good in spring training, I could see people being stupid again with him because people get stupid with DeGrom. I mean, I understand it because the stuff is really nasty. But if he looks good in spring training, I wouldn't be surprised if people are pushing him up into the top 100. And in reality, he probably shouldn't go before like the top 200. I mean, he's just a total flyer that you hope you get 70 innings from. I mean, at best. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not really like, I've never really been a huge DeGrom fan. I think he's overrated, at least for fantasy. He's overrated. I mean, obviously, if you watch him pitch, he's amazing. He's a great pitcher, but for fantasy, he's been overrated since 2019 when he had that huge year. So we're looking at like 4 years now he's been overrated. I wouldn't say this year he was overrated because people already knew he wasn't going to be around until the end of the season. So no one even rated him really for this year. But yeah, I'm kind of whatever on DeGrom for fantasy. I think if you expect 40 innings and you happily accept 75 innings for next year, that is, then great.
Yeah. Do you think your DeGrom's going to the Hall?
I'm a big Hall guy, but I don't know. DeGrom to me is not really a Hall of Famer. He had like 4 good years and then like little snippets of greatness here and there. But are we really gotten to the point where like starting pitching is like 3 seasons of over 200 innings is all you need to get into the Hall of Fame? I mean, that seems kind of ridiculous. I don't know. And for me, DeGrom is under. I think if anything, I would go Johan Santana before DeGrom. And Johan Santana, I believe, was like 1 ballot and gone. So, yeah, I don't think DeGrom's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I think Santana's about as close of a comp as you can get, and he had more innings, and did it in the steroid era. And still did not get the support. So yeah, I would agree. But let's move on. Carlos Correa returned. He's number 13 at shortstop on the per game player rater. Career best K rate at 16.6%. He was basically left for dead in the draft season. Is this a resurgence for Correa that will let you, take him as a potential starting shortstop or starting middle infielder next year? Or is this just, one last good season from him?
I think, good, quote unquote, good is a subjective adjective. So I won't harp on that, but to say this was a good season, it's stretching. It's stretching the definition of good a little bit. I mean, Carlos Correa had 13 homers, zero steals, and a 310 average in 76 games. It's not great. It's okay. It's fine. It's like him or Brandon Rogers. I don't know. It's kind of a toss-up for me, to be honest. He's fine, I guess, if you're in a deep league. And he's there at after 200 overall, and you want to take a flyer on a guy who could potentially be good for half a season. I mean, he's shown that he can't stay on the field, so you're going to have to replace him at some point. So yeah, I'm not really a huge Carlos Correa fan, obviously. I think he's okay for when he's on the field. Like if he were right now, if he were on waivers and he's healthy, he's playing, and if he were on waivers in my league, I would pick him up. I have no problem if you need, batting average or maybe the occasional homer, but I mean, he's not really doing much of anything. Like on the player rater for the year, he is below Paul DeJong. He's below Willie Castro. He's below. This is for shortstops only. Yeah, I mean, it's like him and David Hamilton are side by side on the player rater, and David Hamilton also barely played half a season. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not a huge Carlos Correa fan.
That's fair. I did give per game,
player
rater value, and that was pretty good. But again, it's mainly what Correa's been in his career, which is, he's a solid hitter. You need the counting stats, and that's really what he was doing. He had 51 runs, 47 RBIs in 76 games, so half a season. He would have been on pace for 100 in there with good average and 20-ish, 20 low 20s home runs. Like, it was going to be a very Carlos Correa season when he's a useful fantasy asset. But to your point, there's not a whole lot of upside there. Let's throw some names out at you for middle infielders, shortstop. Number 2 on the 7-day player rater, Tommy Edman.
Oh, I'm going Edman. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you might get an occasional steal. You could get an occasional homer, and that's already better than what Correa is going to give you.
All right. How about fellow disappointing veteran for most of the season, Dansby Swanson?
Oh man, the Dansby Swanson really just he disappeared from valuable. I would go Correa over Swanson, I think, but they're pretty close. I don't know. I don't know. It depends on what you need, maybe, but yeah, I'd probably go Correa over Swanson.
All right, I think I'm going Dansby there just because I still think Dansby can steal bases, and Correa hasn't had that talent in a long time. So
yeah,
that's pretty much my only thing there, especially if we're talking later in the draft. Give me a little bit more upside, I think. How about him or Mason Wynn?
I'll go Correa. Mason Wynn's kind of been disappointing a little bit. Not super exciting for fantasy, at least. Real kind of lucky if you get to a 15-15 year, which is super boring when you're living it. I mean, it's funny because 2020 is exciting, but 15-15 is super boring. I don't know why those 5 homers and 5 steals make such a huge difference, but man, 15-15 is a struggle in a lot of shallower leagues to roster. So yeah, I'm not a huge Mason Wynn fan, but they're probably close. I mean, I'm not going to say it's a slam dunk, but I'd probably go Correa.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with, I don't know. I guess I'd go with Mason Wynn, just thinking maybe they'll run more because the Cardinals let him run beginning the season, and they were like, you know what? No more running. We're not going to run you anymore. And I don't know why that was. Like, if they just let him run like he was, he would have been, 20 stolen bases, 25 stolen bases, and that would have been, 15, 25. That starts entering the realm of interesting again.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know why they stopped with that. A few more names here. Anthony Volpe. We got to find somebody that you'll take over.
No, Volpe. No, I'm not. I'm not on Volpe. I think I don't know. I mean, Volpe is like, I don't know what happened to him. he lost his power. I guess he's got steals, but yeah, I don't know. I think I'll go Correa over Volpe still, even though it could go either way, really. But I'll go Correa still.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, if you switched Volpe, like his halves, then you'd feel better about Volpe because he started well and he's finishing very, very poorly.
Yeah.
But if he had done the opposite, we'd feel good about it. But yeah, when you see somebody just struggle for a couple of months to wrap up the season, it doesn't give you a lot of hope moving forward. And he's had like the job to himself the last 2 years. Given kind of the way he's struggling here, I don't know if they won't potentially look at least somebody to push him. If not, maybe move him or replace him. Bryce Terang.
No, I'm going Terang easily there.
Okay. That's where I thought we'd finally get that move there. And somebody who feels very similar is Jerry Pena. Would take
I would go
basically Carlos's replacement.
Yeah, I go Jeremy Pena.
Okay. So you take again like a 15-20 guy over the 20 home runs from Carlos Correa. That's fair. All right, great. Let's move over to the bullpens. The Yankees, they said they were going to go in a new direction. Luke Weaver got his first save. Anybody who do you want in this bullpen?
They said they would get creative. And then Aaron Boone was asked to be creative, and he's like, what? Does
that mean just somebody who's never done this? I think that's what that means, right?
What do you mean? What do you mean? Yeah. So now the Yankees, quote unquote, going creative with their closer role means everyone but Clay Holmes. I was just like, like on Sunday, I believe it was like, yeah, let's throw 3 guys in the 9th inning. It's like, thank God they have the minimum batter rule. Otherwise Aaron Boone would just mix and match the entire 9th inning. I mean, he's really like, talk about just throwing crap against the wall. Like, no idea. And they have Luke Weaver's fine. Like, there's no reason why Luke Weaver can't be the closer. But yeah, I don't think there is necessarily a closer there. I would say if anyone, it would be Luke Weaver. But as we saw, I believe it was Sunday where Jake Cousins came in. They have Tommy Kahnle there, or Kahnle. I don't know how to pronounce it. Yeah. Okay. As you say. Yeah. So anyway, the Yankees closer now is anyone but Clay Holmes. They went from trying to make Clay Holmes work for like 5 months. Now they're like anyone but him. Like, is there no in between here? Anyway, Luke Weaver or bust, I think.
All right, that's fair enough. It's a mess right now. Over at the Angels, who are always a mess. Ben Joyce goes to the IL with shoulder inflammation because, well, that was bound to happen. And then, I mean, who from that mess of a bullpen do you want now?
I don't really want anyone. I don't find I'm not desperate enough to pick up an Angels closer, but if I were that desperate, I'd probably go Strickland. Hunter Strickland would be my guess for saves there, but it could be Jose Quinjada, Brock Burke, Ryan Miller. Actually, everyone in that bullpen could potentially get a save. But if I had to, if I were desperate and I had to choose someone, I'd probably go Strickland.
Yeah, I think it'd be Strickland or Quijada for me. I don't know that I want to touch anybody else in the bullpen, really. So even then, Tampa Bay, Edwin Uceta gets his third save. Is it his job, or do you think, Tampa Bay is still going to Tampa Bay this?
Yeah, no, I think absolutely. I think if Tampa Bay could throw anyone for a save in their next game, and it wouldn't shock me. Anyone anyone really. I don't think any of the closers, any of the relievers there are going to be the closer necessarily. And that's by design. I think that's just the way they do. Which is, honestly, all the relievers are good. So it's not like they're passing up one great reliever to go to one guy who's terrible. So, they can just mix and match, which is whatever, but it doesn't help us for fantasy. If I had to grab someone, I'd probably go with Uceta, but it could be anyone.
Yeah, I would go Uceta, Clevenger, and then after that, it's whatever. Richard Lovelady has a save in the last couple of weeks, if that's interesting for anybody, but I don't think he's really in the conversation. The Dodgers, we've talked about them back-to-back weeks. Do we think they're still in the same situation? Do you think they finally just settled and let Michael Kopech be the closer, or are they still trying to find a way to get Evan Phillips back in that?
I think it seems like they're still trying to do as of Sunday, it seemed like they were still trying to do the Phillips thing. Maybe after his explosion on, I think it was Sunday, that he gave up a bunch of runs. So maybe after that, finally they've moved on. Maybe, I don't know. But talk about a team that is just looks like it's lined up to get trounced in the playoffs. They're going to need a lot from Jack Flattery and Yamamoto in the playoffs, boy. Woo! That Dodger team, as good as you thought they were coming into the year, they have like one pitcher, and hopefully Kopech can pitch every day of the playoffs and go 2 innings.
Maybe just make Kopech a starter again. Just let him be a starter again. Maybe they can force another rule change like they did with Ohtani, and let him open his games and close his games. Just that'd be fun for everybody.
You're gonna need to score 12 runs a game to really be their pitching is such a mess.
Maybe Ohtani can just close. I saw he was throwing the other day.
Yeah, actually, he did say that he could potentially throw in the playoffs, so that
would be interesting.
Yeah,
I don't know why you would do that, but
who knows?
Interesting.
Yeah, it would be interesting.
Marlins, Jesus Tinoco gets his first save. Is that who you're going with in the Marlins pin, or is this just a complete avoid, Gray?
Yeah, no, Tinoco, his numbers look fine, and since he got the save, I guess it's fine to go with Tinoco. I'd probably go Tinoco over Uceta, who, the Rays, Edwin Uceta. I would probably go Tinoco over him because at least, and I would go Tinoco over Strickland out of the guys we've talked about. I'd probably go Weaver over Tinoco, though, and I'd go Kopech over all of them. But, yeah, I think Tinoco's he's in the conversation to get saves for the Marlins. So, yeah, I could see it. Why not? If you really are desperate for saves, he's at least been decent.
Yeah, he's been solid. At least you get that out of him. Detroit, Jason Foley, Tyler Holden, they just continue to be committing this thing up. Do you have a preference here, or just Take your pick.
No, it seems like it's a committee. I think I like I prefer Foley, I think, just because he's the righty, but Holton has been better. It doesn't look like he has real serious splits either. So yeah, I don't know. I think Foley or Holton, you can't. I mean, it's a committee with both of them. I wouldn't even be surprised if Shelby Miller gets a save or two. So, with so little time left, I think I'd probably just go Foley and hope he gets the saves, or go Holton and hope he gets the saves, but it would just choose one. don't carry them all. I think push comes to shove, I think I'd probably just go Foley because he's the righty.
All right, that's fair enough. And then the last one I'm going to ask you about, and I don't even know why I'm going to ask you, except that they get to play the Angels in 2 series the rest of the way out. So there's maybe a hope here. The White Sox. Is there anybody in this bullpen that might get you a save against another equally terrible organization in the Angels?
Yeah, I think it's classic that the White Sox are gonna it's up to the Angels to put the White Sox down for the most losses in the season when the Angels are not good themselves. This could actually, the White Sox could surprise people and not get the 122nd loss to get the record. By the way, at 121 losses, do you clap for that? Is that something you cheer? Yeah, I think the White Sox closer. I don't know. I guess Justin Anderson, I suppose, seems like the best bet, but I mean, I don't know. I don't think anyone should be picking up a White Sox closer at all. I would avoid the White Sox bullpen if I was trying to win my league. I would not be looking at the White Sox bullpen. Maybe Chad Cole, because he's actually gotten a save. I don't know. I wouldn't pick up one though.
Surprisingly, their bullpen's like the only good thing about the whole team. Like Justin Anderson, Perlanda Baroa, Inieldo de los Santos, they're all pretty solid actually in the back end. So yeah, I don't know that I would be picking any of them up to get a save, but it is the lone bright spot for the White Sox, if you want to call anything bright spot. Is they got like 3 decent middle relievers, Gray. That's solid for the White Sox, who I think we should just sub out for the Savannah Bananas and at least have an entertaining game for the clubs, so that it's something, because the White Sox aren't even an entertaining game.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Let's move over to waivers, Greg. Give the people some bats. I'll give them some streamers, and we'll get out of here.
Okie dokes. So I mentioned him earlier. Victor Robles has been just crazy on the base paths. He stole 6 bags last week. I would absolutely grab him if I needed steals. Nolan Chanel has been really good. He's probably rostered in most leagues, but maybe he's available in your league. He's had a hot streak of late. Carlos Santana, the singer, not the hitter. No, actually, sorry. I take that back. Actually, the hitter, not the singer. He's been good. Davis Schneider has gotten hot. Maybe he's a September type guy, because he was great last September. He's been good so far this September. Randall Grichuk has been amazing. He's the type of guy who's I'm the type of guy. Randall Grichuk's the type of guy who gets hot for extended periods of time, so he's been good. Jose Tena, he gets a few lefties this week, so that's not great, but he has been solid. He stole 3 bags last week and hit 350. Also, Kyle Isbell stole a couple bags, hit 400 last week. Hunter Goodman has catcher eligibility. He's in Coors for the first half of the week, and he has a couple homers in the last week, so he's been good. And then Otto Lopez is hitting over 300, steal, homer. It's been good. Johan Bride, also on the Marlins. He's been solid. And Jonathan Aranda has been solid for the Rays and has been playing every day. So yeah, there's a few names for you.
All right, that's a good grouping of names there for everybody as they get ready for the end here. On the streaming side, it gets a little bit harder this time of year as people try and grab the streamers off the wire before you can get there. But Albert Suarez gets a 2-start versus San Francisco versus Detroit. Griffin Canning gets the White Sox. Kyle Hendricks versus the Nationals. Brandon Williamson gets Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh. Justin Verlander versus the Angels. Jose Quintana versus the Nationals. Jameson Taillon versus Nationals. And Javier Assad versus Oakland. There's some starts. If you have any specific questions as you get ready to set your second to last lineup for the season, find us on Twitter. I'm at Razzball. Gray is at Razzball. Like, subscribe, comment on youtube.com/Razzball Fantasy or wherever you listen to our podcast. Good luck as we wrap up the season. May you hunt down the people in front of you, which for Gray, I know in the RCL League is Sun. So may you chase down Sun the last 3 points you need, bud.
All right, Lates.
All right, see you, man.